Select Essays by Michel de Montaigne, translated by Charles Cotton. Narrated by Clive Chafer. This unabridged audiobook was produced in the year 2011 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Of Idleness. As we see some grounds that have long lain idle and untilled, when grown rich and fertile by rest, to abound with and spend their virtue in the product of innumerable sorts of weeds and wild herbs that are unprofitable, and that to make them perform their true office, we are to cultivate and prepare them for such seeds as are proper for our service. And as we see women that, without knowledge of man, do sometimes of themselves bring forth inanimate and formless lumps of flesh, but that to cause a natural and perfect generation they are to be husbanded with another kind of seed, even so it is with minds, which, if not applied to some certain study that may fix and restrain them, run into 1,000 extravagances, eternally roving here and there in the vague expanse of the imagination. As when in brazen vats of water the trembling beams of light reflected from the sun or from the image of the radiant moon swiftly float over every place around, and now are darted up on high and strike the ceilings of the upmost roof. Virgil. In which wild agitation there is no folly, nor idle fancy they do not light upon. As a sick man's dreams creating vain phantasms. Horace. The soul that has no established aim loses itself, for, as it is said, he who lives everywhere lives nowhere. Marshall. When I lately retired to my own house, with a resolution as much as I possibly could to avoid all manner of concern in affairs, and to spend in privacy and repose the little remainder of time I have to live, I fancied I could not more oblige my mind than to suffer it at full leisure to entertain and divert itself, which I now hoped it might henceforth do, as being by time become more settled and mature. But I find, leisure ever creates varied thought, Lucan. That quite contrary, it is like a horse that has broken from his rider, who voluntarily runs into a much more violent career than any horseman would put him to, and creates me so many chimeras and fantastic monsters, one upon another, without order or design, that the better at leisure to contemplate their strangeness and absurdity, I have begun to commit them to writing, hoping in time to make it ashamed of itself. Of Liars. There is not a man living whom it would so little become to speak from memory as myself, for I have scarcely any at all, and do not think.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?